Abxylute's new telescopic controller is here. It is called the S8, and it is releasing at the end of July. I have an advanced first look to give you here, so let's dive right in and see what it's all about. So first off, because this is a first look, this is actually an engineering sample. This is not the final product. So today is going to be a first look, and I'm going to share at the end of the video the list of what's going to be changed from my review to the final product, at least to the list of what they've given me. So I'll share that at the end, and the reason I'm doing that is because I want to go through it in the way that it's presented, and then share at the end what is going to be improved according to Abxylute. Let's start right off the bat with specs, features, and everything. This starts at $54 US right off of Abxylute's website, and they are marketing it as a Switch 2 compatible telescopic controller. But you can obviously use your iPhone or Android phone or Android devices, tablets, all of that sort of thing. They're actually selling a dual pack as well for some reason if you want to grab two. And yes, I know the Lenovo Y700 users are going to be asking right away, does it fit? And yes, it does. You can put the Y700 inside of here. For reference, the maximum width is 216 millimeters, which I believe is the same as the Abxylute S9 that released before, so it can hold quite a number of larger devices. It is not typical that you can fit a Switch 2 or a Y700 in one of these usually, and I'll mostly be using it for the Y700 today. This is a good thing. This does support X input, HID input, NS mode, and PS mode, and it has virtual mapping. Now, the virtual mapping I couldn't test because I could not find it in the software and my software wasn't working properly. So just keep that in mind. Now, you would typically be using X input for streaming and Game Pass and GeForce Now and so on. NS mode you would use for Switch 1 or Switch 2, or if you're doing any retro gaming through RetroArch and that sort of thing. PS mode is for PlayStation Remote Play, and this actually does work with the official PlayStation Remote Play app. So you don't need to use PX Play anymore if you don't want to. Since this is a Bluetooth telescopic controller, there is no USB-C input, but there is a USB-C port at the bottom for charging the device and the internal battery. Now, taking a quick look at the actual device, and despite a weight of 249 grams, it is actually fairly light, and it feels really easy to hold. This is also so much lighter than the Game Sir G8 Plus. That is 314 grams, and you can feel the difference instantly. We have full-sized Hall effect joysticks here, and they feel really nice to use, and they're smooth as well. They do have quite a wide range of motion and low dead zones, and they can be a nice upgrade for the Switch 2 in that way. There is a micro switch D-pad here, and this does require a large amount of pressure to push down. I'm a big fan of easy, looser D-pads, and this is the complete opposite. It can also be quite loud with the noise of the switches, and that might turn some people off. Accuracy-wise, it did feel good to me in both platforms and fighting games, but the amount of pressure needed made it hard to really judge this D-pad. On the other side, we have quite possibly the loosest buttons that I have ever used. A straight 180 from the D-pad. It takes almost no pressure to push these buttons down, and there is a lot of travel. I prefer to have a bit more resistance, a bit more of a tactile feel here for my buttons, and I've actually never felt buttons this loose before. So the D-pad is too stiff, the buttons are too light. We have pretty clicky shoulder buttons right on top, and no matter where you push down on them, they do connect and register, which is a good thing. Then we have pretty silent Hall effect linear triggers on the back, which do seem to have a good amount of resistance. It's not a lot. It is kind of in the middle between the D-pad and the buttons, so there is some resistance. And the accuracy I found to be not correct on the left analog trigger. It doesn't seem to get all the way to 100. The right does, and it also seems to start after a little bit of pushing down. So maybe some work on the dead zones. Again, this is something you can likely change in the software, like the S9, but I couldn't get that to work. There's also two programmable buttons right on the back, and again, we have a USB-C port at the bottom for charging the device. Overall, when we talk about comfort and ergonomics, I actually really like how this feels. Offset controls, nice bumps and grips on the handholds, and everything feels pretty good. The lesser weight is probably the best thing here though, especially as we start to look at the Switch 2 and other heavier devices where any weight savings, especially something like 60 to 70 grams, is super helpful. Now, one negative that I do have about the device is the extending and going back part is a little too easy. It's a little too light. It shouldn't be this easy for me to push this back and forth, and it does make it so that whatever you hold inside of it is a little bit looser than I want it to be. For example, if I look at the GameSir G8 Plus, it takes a lot of pressure to pull this out, and you can hear that snap back. Like it's very, very strong, whatever coils they're using to extend out. This is not like that at all, and I'm hoping that they can adjust the tension on this to make it a lot more tighter, because while it is cool and easy to be able to just easily pull this out, you do want it to be snug. You do want it to hold your device nice and snug inside of it. Looking at some of the software and features now, and we do have vibration for rumble, as well as 6-axis gyro support and turbo support. Now, I don't typically use gyro on my end, but I did try it out in Call of Duty Mobile, and it did seem to work just fine. I think maybe there's some sensitivity adjustments that I need to make, or something along those lines, and it might be in the software, but it works, it just needs some tuning. Now on the vibration end, this definitely needs some tuning. I couldn't get it to work in Call of Duty Mobile, but it works just fine on the Switch 2, and boy, does it work. My house was completely shaking, and all I was doing was moving Donkey Kong, and every movement would set it off, and a lot. Now, this likely could be fixed again, and I hate saying this, but it could be fixed in the software somehow. I had to personally turn off the vibration while testing because it got too much, but they do need to tune this quite a bit. If there's a way to change it in the software, or they have to change it on their end, one or the other, it's a bit too much. Abxylute has their own Android and iOS apps, and so let's take a quick look at it. On startup, it asks you if you want to add any games to the app, and you basically get a whole launcher that you can launch games from. It'll give you some games that it'll suggest, and maybe you want to pick up, or it'll take you to the Xbox Game Pass website if you want to stream some of those Xbox games. Now, I mentioned it before, but I did try and connect this controller to the app, and it might not have been updated for the S8 yet. It kept wanting the S9 instead, which is their older telescopic controller. So I might be doing something wrong on my part, or maybe it's just not up to date yet. But if it is like the S9, then you can remap buttons, you can change gyroscope settings, you can adjust joystick dead zones and trigger dead zones and joystick sensitivity and update your firmware and all of that fun stuff. So there are a bunch of things that you can do in the software, if it works. Looking at the S8 with a Switch 2, and it is similar to what I did with the GameSir G8 Plus, and it feels really good. This actually could probably be a lot of people's favorite way to play the Switch 2 in handheld mode, because the ergonomics of the Switch 2 isn't that great in handheld mode, in my opinion. Now, what is interesting about this is because it is much lighter than the G8 Plus, this is a lot easier for me to hold, and so it feels much better in my hands. I kind of wish that I had waited to make that video before and used the Abxylute S8 instead, because I think it fits better and is cheaper. But either way, I'm a big fan of this. This is a nice, comfy way of playing, and it feels a lot better. Honestly, it's actually cool that telescopic controllers are supporting the Switch 2 right now. Until we get the MOBA pads and Joy-Con replacements and all of that of the world, these are good stopgaps, I think, for right now. Honestly, for $54, it is hard to find major complaints here for this. I think it is a good telescopic controller. If they would fix the different parts that I mentioned before, and that's why I can't fully recommend it yet, because it's not completely finished. But I did promise you a list of what is coming in the final product compared to what I reviewed today. So let's go over that now. First up, they are making the ABXY buttons more reinforced for response, which again, something I brought up, and that's a good change. That is definitely needed here, so they definitely know what the issue is. Then we have changes to the D-pad, and again, I noted this before, but it is just way too stiff, and they plan on optimizing it. Now, I hadn't noticed any difference with the M1 and M2 buttons, but that is also on their list to change. Then we have a few other changes that might have affected some of the other trial units, but nothing that I noticed on my end. I think for me, who, when I use a telescopic controller, I don't care too much about the extra stuff. Software is great for updating but I don't really dig into dead zones and remapping and all of that sort of thing. So for me, if they could fix the buttons and D-pad as they say they are, that would be enough for me to say this is a recommendation on my part, but we'll have to revisit that and see what they do and if they actually do fix it. So that's going to be it for this one. Let me know in the comments below. Are telescopic controllers still on your radar? Are you like me and you've been looking for one for the Switch 2? I've been using the GameSir G8 Plus occasionally. I don't like using the Switch 2 in handheld mode, but this I find to be a lot better. That 60 or 70 grams of savings of weight makes a massive difference when it comes to holding this Switch 2 chonker. So yeah, for me, this is a good price. It is good feature set. It feels good for a controller. We'll revisit it when the final one is out, but there's enough here that I could say it's a decent amount of controller for the price, and keep an eye on it for sure. Don't forget to like and sub to help the channel grow. Come join me on the Discord to talk all about handhelds and telescopic controllers and emulation and all of that fun stuff. Support me through YouTube membership if you like my stuff. And hope you all have a good one.